Hi everyone, it's me, Arielle, and it's Wednesday Warriors, and today's topic is about relapse. Today's topic is, what is the difference between a slip and a relapse? When will I know that I need help again? And it's a great topic because I think it's something that everyone who struggles with an eating disorder needs to know. Um, I just want to talk a little bit first about being honest with yourself and understanding that slip ups are going to occur, because once you get on a recovery path, it doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect and do perfectly every single day for the rest of your life. Eating disorder recovery is like recovery from anything. You can, quote unquote, be sober, live a recovered lifestyle, but you might have problems that will arise. And just because you have problems that arise doesn't mean that you have entered into a relapse. I talk a lot about starting at point A and moving to point B and what happens in between point A and point B. I'm going to post a link to a video that I did a little while ago where I talk some more about that. As far as eating disorder relapse is concerned, what you really want to do is notice things that tend to trigger you, things that might send you down the path of relapse. Things like stress with school, with family, with work, pressure from anyone in your life, external problems in your life, going through a breakup, going through a divorce, being rejected by a job, by a friend, by a family member, marital problems, relationship problems, any kind of competition, if you play sports, things like that, any kind of competition can trigger the feelings that can be associated with relapsing. The loss of a friend or a family member or anyone close to you. Dealing with someone else that has an eating disorder can trigger you, can set you on a path of relapse, even if you are trying to help that person, even if that person is a close friend to you. If you have recently started talking about things in your past, or working through things, some sort of trauma, sexual abuse, anything like that that's very painful for you, it can often bring up things, and instead of it's good because they're not lying within you anymore, just being hidden and bottled up. But when they rise to the top, it can bring on a relapse. Things like that are things to be on the lookout for. It doesn't mean that you have to be very deathly afraid of all of those things. It just means that when any one of those things are occurring, and especially if more than one of those things is occurring, you just want to be extra cautious. You want to sort of monitor yourself, see if you are deviating from your regular routine, see if you are slipping at all. If any one of those things gives you a bad day, or even if any one of those things give you a bad week, but you don't let that day or that week continue as your new path, then it's a slip up and it's not a relapse. That's how I think of it. If you sort of bounce back or you plateau for a little while and get yourself back on track, then you are not relapsing. You're relapsing if you give in to any one of those things or all of those things or anything else that I didn't mention, and you let that become your new path, and you start to follow that, and you start to go back to the way that you used to be, or worse than you used to be. A lot of times when people relapse, they actually end up struggling harder with their eating disorders than they did before. Other things that can cause relapses are being released from treatment for the first time, for the second time, for the third time, pretty much any time you're back in the real world, you have to deal with things on your own. Things that are triggering can also be just a basic fear of recovering, or a fear of gaining weight, or a fear of being identified as something other than your weight. It's something that's going to be different for everyone. And like I said, these things that I'm listing are just for you to be aware of, just for you to be cautious and careful with yourself. They're not to scare you even further. And it doesn't mean that if any one of those things are happening, that you are going to have a relapse, or even that you are in danger of having a relapse. It's just for you to be on guard. I'm going to start talking in examples because I think they're easier to understand, especially when it comes to relapsing and what defines an actual relapse. For example, if any one of those things in the list that I just went through happens to you, let's say you were up for a job promotion and you were working really hard and you really thought that you were going to get it, and you didn't get this new job, you don't have the promotion, and you are seriously bummed out, you're feeling really bad, you go home and you say, that's it, I feel terrible. I'm not eating dinner today. I'm not eating dinner tomorrow. I need to lose weight. It'll make me feel better. And you go home and you don't eat dinner and you go to sleep that night, and the next day you're feeling bad and you don't eat that day. But then you think to yourself, this is silly. It's not going to get me anywhere. This is not really what I want to do. And you go back to your regular routine again and you start eating every meal. You start doing a lot better. You had a moment there where you were very upset and you were taking it out on yourself, or you were coping in the only way that you knew how, but you didn't let it become your path. Another example would be if that scenario happened where you wanted a promotion and you didn't get it and you were upset and you came home, and for example, if you were bulimic, you come home and you're so upset that you binge all night long and you purge. And let's say you haven't purged in 6 months or you haven't purged in a year, and you let yourself purge. It doesn't mean that you're starting from scratch because you allowed yourself to slip up. Is it a good thing? It's certainly not a good thing. It's very bad for you. It can be very emotionally draining and it's very upsetting. And it does mean that it was a setback. It is a setback, but it doesn't mean that it sets you back to square one. You're not at the beginning. It does not discount everything that you've already learned all the time that you are recovering so far. Recovery is a really strange journey. It's really difficult. It's very different for everyone. So if you ever slip up, you can't say to yourself that you are a failure. You can't tell yourself that you failed. You can't tell yourself that you have to start over from the beginning, because you don't. You still know all the things you knew up until this entire point, but you're just going to have to start anew, start afresh. If you do what I just said and you binge and you purge and you haven't in a very long time, and then the next morning, you're regretful of those actions and you start on a good path again, it's not a relapse, it's a slip up. If you continue to do that because you started and you were unable to stop, then that's a relapse. So I hope I made the differences clear, and I hope that if you are experiencing a slip up here and there, you will get help so that you can keep yourself on the right path, because sometimes that's really what it takes. When you can see yourself slipping, getting yourself back on track by asking for help or by getting the help you need is going to keep you from relapsing. And if you are relapsing, I obviously hope that you're getting help for that as well. I hope everyone's having a great week, and I will see you next time. Bye.